happening. Another masterclass to make sure that people can work from anywhere. How are you feeling, Michelle?
Feeling pumped. I'm feeling like calmly excited. It's like it was a really nice Zen feeling. I was saying it's a little bit differently. It's a bit different to how we did the Masterclass, where we were both in the same house, the same country. Oh, we're in the same country again, actually. And being able to jump into a pool in Spain was a little bit of a different vibe than it is now in the UK.
Exactly. Well, actually, now that we're in the UK, it was a very sunny day today. I mean, that doesn't always happen, right?
Very true. Very true.
Amazing, amazing. Hello, everyone. So I see that there's so many people in already. This is like so freaking awesome. I love it. I'm Ninkanina. I'm gonna MC the event today, but of course, you guys are here for Michelle.
Hi, Jacko, Hako. I'm gonna go in. Hey, Utkarsh. Oh yeah. Keep saying where you're from. That's great. I like hearing about where people are from and where they're in, because it's usually quite different as well.
Yeah, that's so amazing. And we're gonna actually pop that question later because like you said, like we're accidentally in the UK, both of us were both like traveling so much and now we're actually here. Like
Yeah.
so
Oh,
true.
Gabe, I recognize that name.
Cool. I
It's
see
you.
people from Brazil. Oi, bom dia, boa noite. Oh,
Hartmut, we met in Gran Canaria. Hello.
Admiral Ron. Oh, this is amazing. I feel like we're gonna maybe hit all continents today.
That would be awesome. Oh, we got Africa. Nice.
Oh
So we
my
got
god. So is there an
Jacqueline.
Aussie around? Then I think we got it. Like I see Europe and
I think it's quite late for the Aussies, maybe.
yeah, but who knows? You
We've
know, when
got,
people
we've
are
got
dedicated, then
okay, we've got Asia there. We've got Bangladesh. That's awesome. Ireland,
awesome,
nice.
awesome. Love it. All right, love it.
Erica, hello.
All right, so everyone, while you guys all keep sharing where you're at, I'm gonna give Michelle the word. She's gonna go for it today. We have about 1 hour. There will be a Q&A which we're gonna do at the end. So if you have any questions, make sure to save them, take note of them. We're gonna drop them. You can drop them in the chat. I will make sure that Michelle's actually gonna see them at the end. So yeah, I would just say let's go. I'm gonna give
Nice.
the full floor to you. So
Nice.
let's hit those sexy buttons here. All right,
Hello.
let's go.
Thanks so much, Nia. She's the best MC, honestly. Welcome, everyone. I am Michelle, if you didn't know already. I am the founder of Remote Rebellion. Really excited to be here today to tell you how, or show you how, to get a fully remote job and have the freedom to choose wherever you want to work. So I know that we're waiting for a few more people to join us, and a few people have already started this, but I'd really love to know, and if you can tell us in the comments where you're from and also where you are right now. So you might be in a different country to the place that you are from, and that's awesome. I'll start. It's a bit lame and nomadic at the moment. I'm from the UK, and actually in the UK, in Manchester. I spent about 2 years in Bali before coming back to Europe, but I'm traveling around Europe, trying to find my next base, and I'm in the UK visiting family before I head off to Ireland to go to another digital nomad conference next week. So Nina, my lovely MC, also in the UK at the minute. Nina is from the Netherlands. We met online about 8 months ago, and then we met in real life in Lisbon, which is awesome. So whilst I'm going to be presenting today, I won't be able to see the chat because I've only got the one screen because I'm traveling. So Nina's going to be collecting the comments. She's going to be collating any of the questions that you have, and then we'll get to as many as we can at the end. Nina, where's everyone from and in?
Hello. Yeah, this is so freaking awesome. I see so many countries. Honestly, I'm like so overwhelmed right now. I feel like our remote first vibe is like up and top right now. It's like so many different countries. I see Hungary, USA, Missouri. I see Argentina, South Africa, Dubai, being in Canada right now, Las Palmas, Lisboa. Oh my god, is this crazy Cape that looks big as Philippines?
Nice.
Wow,
Have
love
we
it.
got anyone in South America? Have we covered that continent yet?
Yeah, I think we had Argentina,
Okay.
isn't that
Oh, we
right?
got Argentina. Great, awesome. Nice. Just ticking them all off, you know. I think it's
Right?
a bit late for Australasia, perhaps.
But you know what? But if you are an Aussie, or if you're in Australia, like let us know. Like I see Valencia, Spain. You met a rebel there, didn't you?
Nice.
All right.
Okay, awesome. So for the next 60 minutes, I'm going to show you how I went from corporate life as a recruiter in a 9 to 5 office job in London to getting a fully remote job and living in Bali. And I'm going to teach you in this masterclass how you can get a fully remote job and work from anywhere. So some of the ways that I'll teach you that are the 5 hidden places to find 100% remote jobs faster, the 6 steps to successfully land your dream remote job, and how to ignore the propaganda that the media and the corporations are throwing at you to make you believe that remote work is dead and that you're asking for too much. It's not, by the way, and I'll show you why. And I will tell you about the Remote Job Academy. And at the end, I'll be able to answer as many questions as I can. I've got this excited buzz, so if I get my words out faster than I'm able to think about, and that's why. One thing I will ask is, I've invested a lot of time in this masterclass, and all I'm asking for in return is for your attention. So I know it's really easy when you're online and you're looking at something, you've got your tabs open, you go into Slack, you go into LinkedIn. Can I please ask you to close all of the tabs, turn off notifications, turn your phone the other way, and type in yes in the chat if you're fully committed for the next hour to this masterclass.
I see so many yeses coming here. This is freaking
Good.
awesome. There was a quick question, Marina, about the presentation. We're gonna prep the replay as well, but stay until the end. Only for those people who stay in the end, we have something special. Yes, yes, yes. Oh my
Special.
god, there's so many yeses. Paul, Jacob, Irene, Stephen. This is freaking awesome. Okay, let's go. People cannot wait for this.
Good. So Nina alluded to this as a thank you gift for everyone who is committed and who stays until the end. You're going to get a bonus video, and it'll show you how to find hidden work from anywhere jobs and a workbook. So it's got a ready-made search string that you can use in Google that is finding those hidden jobs on hidden job boards that you on hidden sites that you wouldn't necessarily be able to find. Are you ready? I'm going to assume you're saying yeses rather than keep going over to Nina. And I'm going to assume with all the excitement we've got so far that it's a yes. So awesome. Let's do it. Little bit about me. My passion for remote work is really tied in with my love of adventure. So a fun fact, I cycled a few years ago from Montenegro to France. I don't know if you can see the little the map in there. I also love food. I have a record of eating 34 oysters in one sitting. I was having a competition with someone I did CrossFit with, and I was quite proud and a little bit sick after this. So traveling's always been a huge part of my life, and eating and traveling kind of go really nicely hand in hand. So when I worked as a recruiter, I saw that remote work was becoming popular, and that was back in 2017. So I pushed for remote work at that company that I worked for, and I eventually managed to get up to 4 days a week remote with just 1 day a week in the office. That wasn't enough for me. I needed more freedom, and I got so sick of the city life, of the commuting. I was going down the route of depression, actually, and I decided to quit my corporate job, and instead of helping companies to hire as a recruiter, I set up Remote Rebellion, and now I use this recruitment expertise and the network that I've gained with remote first companies to help job seekers just like you land your ideal remote job. This is me back in the office days, back in 2014, before Remote Rebellion. I lived in a tiny flat. It was expensive, overpriced. It was London. Had to squeeze myself onto a packed tube most days to get to the office. And as you can probably see, if you see me lately, I wasn't living such a healthy life. I was a little bit larger and just generally drinking a lot. I wasn't happy. And then in 2020, like a lot of us, we were forced to work from home, and without all those distractions of the busy life, the pub, the theatre, I had the time to stop and think about what I really wanted. And I realized that the city life was making me miserable. I thought about what my happy place was, and for me, it was being by the ocean, being in the sea, by the sea, around the sea, anything. So when 2021 came around and things started opening up a little bit more, we still didn't have any idea when we'd have to return back to the office. So I decided to make the most of it. And I thought I'd go and work from Bali until the London office opened up again. We didn't know how long that was going to be. And then the call came. Boss rang me and said, Michelle, you need to come back to the office. The London office is opening. And I honestly felt sick. I felt like grabbing the nearest post and being like, no, you can't make me go. And the thought of having to go back to London and go back to commuting and to that life, I genuinely felt sick. I felt like my freedom and my lifestyle was being taken away. I was so much happier where I was working remotely in Bali. I slept better. I exercised more. I spent most of the days on the beach or in the sea. And I had this amazing community of other people living a different life as well. So I decided to quit my job and stay in Bali. And I didn't think it would be hard to get another job. I worked in recruitment for so long. I was good at what I did, but I soon realized that actually finding a remote job and a fully one that allowed me to work from Bali was much harder. I scrolled on LinkedIn, I kept coming across fake remote jobs, and then I'd look on job boards and I couldn't find many suitable roles. I hadn't struggled to find a job before, never. I'd basically applied, interviewed, and it'd been really simple. But finding something that was genuinely 100% remote and I could work from anywhere was frustrating as hell. And I really started to have a lot of self-doubt. Am I asking for too much? Should I just go back home? What should I do? And what's wrong with me? Why is no one responding? Am I no good at my job? I really couldn't figure it out. I had a lot of self-doubt. Then I switched tactics and I created a proper strategy. I used the knowledge as I gained as a recruiter and really put things into place and start building up that big network of remote first companies. And soon after that, I landed 2 freelance remote recruitment jobs. I helped 2 startups to fill their remote positions, it was good for the time being. But then I realized something else, that instead of helping the companies to hire, I could use this strategy to help other people get their ideal job and that allow them to have the same kind of freedom that I did. So I've been doing that for the last 2 years, 2.5 years now, and I've helped hundreds of people land a fully remote job that's really enabled them to live the life that they design with actual real freedom and flexibility. Okay, so you know a little bit about me now. I'm not going to bang on about me anymore. I'm here to help you. So have a little think about what you've been doing over the last few weeks, months since you've been looking for your remote job. You've perhaps got this open to work banner on your LinkedIn. You've probably applied to tons of jobs and sent connection requests on LinkedIn to anyone, everyone. You've probably aimlessly scrolled on LinkedIn before you've even known it. A few hours have passed. You're finding mostly hybrid remote jobs, and there's a lot of fake remote jobs. You're hearing the news that remote work is dead. You probably spent a lot of time adjusting your CV and even more time applying. And really, just to get a rejection email, if you're lucky, a lot of them just don't even get back to people. And you send them into the abyss, not even knowing if humans actually read them. It's pretty frustrating, right? And you probably never had an issue getting a job in the past either, just the same way I didn't. So why is it so difficult now? There are 2 reasons, and they're not your fault. They are fear and ego. And they are not your fear and ego, but the company's too afraid to embrace this new way of working and really forcing people back into the offices that they've already paid for. And because of that, and because we don't want to go back to how it was, we've seen a different light. The remote job market is so competitive. Hopefully you can see this graph on here, but this graph shows you that just 15% of remote jobs on LinkedIn of jobs on LinkedIn are remote, and 50% of all applications go to that 15%. So it's really not your fault if you're seeing and you're struggling and you didn't struggle before. But I'm not saying that to put you off. I'm just telling you that it's a bit different now and that it is competitive. So I don't want you to give up on your dream to work remotely. Definitely not. It just means that doing the same things that you've done in the past to get a remote job is unlikely to give you the same results in 2023. But don't worry, I'm going to show you a different approach so you can stand out amongst the competition. If you're asking yourself, am I in the right place? If you're actively applying for remote jobs, or if you want to work remotely but you don't know where to start, you're in the right place. And I'll tell you why, because it doesn't matter if you've got no experience working remotely, if you want to switch industries, if you've been working for over 20 years in the same role. I've helped people from entry level to C-suite, age 21 to 68. So it really doesn't matter what your background is. The important thing is your dedication. So if you're committed to putting in the time and the effort into getting a remote job, then you're in the right place. So if you're not committed, you're in the wrong place. If you're committed to that end result, you're in the right place.
That's true. Like, that's so, like, if you don't know what to do, like, no.
I'm going to get to questions as well. I just wanted to send a little reminder as well. If you do think of questions as I'm going through this, they might pop into your head. Add them into the chat. Nina's going to be collating them, and we'll get to as many as we can at the end as well. Awesome. So you're also in the right place if you want to know where to find 100% remote jobs and work from anywhere jobs. If you want to know how to demonstrate your value on paper and really show recruiters and hiring managers why you're a great match for their company. A lot of people do really well in interviews, but when it comes to writing it on paper, they struggle a little bit to get that value across. Most people do, actually. If you want to get support and motivation and no longer do this on your own and a little bit in the dark, if you want to get expert guidance and advice from a recruiter, that's me, who knows what remote first companies are looking for. And if you want to wow companies that you actually want to work with and be selective on those companies. Reminder here, drop your questions in the chat, please. I forgot this was on there. I thought it was earlier. So let me ask you a question. Please drop your answers in the chat. Are you sick of applying for lots of jobs and getting generic rejection emails, or worse still, actually getting completely ghosted? Would you prefer the freedom to choose where you work and how you spend your days? What are people saying, Nina?
I'm seeing a lot of yeses here, so let's go.
And you might be thinking, like a lot of people, that remote job isn't a reality for you. And that's probably because it's all a little bit overwhelming and you can feel like this little guy on the bottom left, especially if you made a load of applications without getting any responses from most of them. So I want to help you go from the person on the left who's unsure how to get to their destination to breaking it down step by step so that it's no longer an unrealistic goal. Be that happy little guy at the top of the steps. I would like to attribute these awesome illustrations to Nina. They're from her book. Little plug there. There's going to be some sprinkling of these illustrations that I cannot take credit for. So just a reminder, you don't have to be, or you don't need to desire to be a digital nomad to work remotely. This is a snapshot of some of our rebels. Yes, most of them are working outside, not all of them. Some of you may want to stay in your hometown. Some of you may never want to leave your home office. A remote job means less time commuting. It means more time with your family and your pets. It means you can travel freely if you want to, spend time with parents or family abroad. Maybe you want to live by the coast, or you want to live in the mountains and finally have some time to do the things you enjoy instead of working. It doesn't mean that you have to be on the go all the time. So like I said, these are a snapshot of our rebels, and these guys have their own reasons for working remotely. That doesn't matter. What matters is they got a fully remote job that lets them choose their lifestyle. And if they can do it, you can do it too. Let me ask another question. Are you ready to learn how to get a fully remote job and have the freedom to choose where you work?
Again, I'm getting a lot of yeses. Yeah, I'm getting a lot of yeses. And also, guys, I'm seeing all the questions. So I'm like getting all the questions. So that's great. We're gonna have time later on to answer them. So keep it coming. Jacob Peters, yes, yes, yes. So many people say yes.
Nice. So one of the biggest problems I hear is that people can't even get a chance to interview somewhere. And after working as a recruiter for 9 years, I've seen tens of thousands of CVs, cover letters, and I've interviewed thousands of candidates. I've recruited specifically for international remote first organizations. So I know how recruiters work and what hiring managers really want to see and how to get their attention in your job application so that you actually get invited to interviews. So who else has sent lots of applications without even so much as getting the odd interview? I can imagine there's a lot of you, right?
Literally, I just saw a few comments, people sending 200 applications, nothing happens.
Yeah. I've just noticed this this little gift that I've got on here. That's like the box of food at my desk. That was just so like representative of like working in the office and not really leaving that desk. It was. I mean, we had an office dog, so it wasn't too bad. Okay, so I'm going to show you, and I'm going to answer a lot of your questions that you're probably putting into the chat right now. I'm going to show you the hidden places to find 100% remote jobs faster, the 6 steps to successfully land a remote job, and why now is the best time to apply and to get a remote job. And if you've got any questions as I walk through all of this, again, please ask it in the chat. Who has had a look at a job on LinkedIn and thought, looks like a cool company, looks like a cool job, scroll down to the bottom, requirements, I can do them, brilliant, I'm going to apply. And then notice right down at the bottom, 1 day a week in the office. It's really annoying, right? And when it happens again and again, you might have started to think 100% remote and work from anywhere jobs, they don't actually exist. Everyone's asking us to go into the office, or at least not in the field that you want. Believe me, I thought the same too. I got so disheartened when I started applying to a job that said remote, and then turned out I needed to come into the office every month or even every week. I felt like it was just a pipe dream and that I was asking for too much. A job I enjoyed, it was paid well and allowed me to live in Bali. Like, surely I'm asking for too much. But you're not. That's when I realized I had to look outside of the usual places to find real remote jobs. I couldn't just rely on LinkedIn anymore. So I started researching, I started discovering a whole load of places to find 100% remote opportunities. I connected with remote work advocates, industry leaders, remote first companies, and uncovered a whole bunch of places to find remote jobs. And I've been adding to this for the last 2 years now. So I want to show you where you can find 100% remote jobs. Specialist job boards are important because typical job boards can be expensive and they don't often specialize in remote work. So take a look at specialist job boards with a filter for remote. I've got a list of over 100, but there's tons more out there, and they can actually have various levels of specialism. So there's a remote woman is one of them. You have ones that I think there was like people of color coding or something like that. There's really like there's one for designers, one for people who want to work in social impact. The list is endless. You don't just need to focus on the remote ones. You can actually focus on the specialism in your field as well. And then it's really frustrating applying for a job and not knowing if that company is truly remote. So instead of searching for jobs, hoping that they're remote, finding remote first organizations and seeing what opportunities they have is a really good way to do this alongside applying for jobs. And if they don't have anything available right now, reach out to them, submit an open application, and what I say, sow the seed for later. And that something might come of that in a few months' time or a few weeks' time, but you're actually going into the companies you want to work for and sowing that seed. So I've got a list of over 960 remote first companies, and over half of these allow work from anywhere. I'm adding to this all the time, and these are just the ones I know of. There's tons more out there as well. I spent years headhunting, and I'd use special Google X-ray searches to find candidates. For those of you who've worked in recruitment, you know what that looks like, the Boolean searching. And you can use this technique to actually search for hidden remote jobs and companies instead. So jobs that aren't on most job boards, but they're hidden in the company's applicant tracking system. I'm going to share a video and a workbook on how to do this for those who stay to the end. That'll be really helpful for finding some that, for those of you who are looking for quite niche positions as well. And it's really going to blow your mind, the opportunities that you find that you don't find on every single job board or LinkedIn. Networking is underestimated. Everyone talks about it, the importance of networking, but it really is one of those things that people aren't doing right or doing effectively. So referrals is by far one of the best ways to get a remote job, and it can effectively dramatically increase not just the number of opportunities that you find, but increase your chances of actually getting the job as well. Having those introductions, having someone who says, I rate this person, they are great. So sending a message to recruiters or hiring managers like this one that Nina sent is just one of the ways, but there's loads of other ways to open up doors to more remote opportunities. Another is in-person meetups, online events, asking your previous colleagues, friends, family if they know of anything. Go with if you don't ask, you don't get. Go out there, tell people, add value, and tell them what you're looking for. And because many remote jobs aren't on job boards or on LinkedIn, there's a whole other bunch of places that you can find them. So in my research, I discovered a bunch of groups, communities, both on social media, on Slack, event pages where you can actually find hidden remote jobs. So like the screenshot here, on most Slack groups, if those of you who aren't aware of Slack or haven't used it, do a simple Google search for something in your field. So that might be remote marketing, and then type in Slack, see what kind of groups there are for those kind of opportunities. And almost every Slack group has a jobs channel. So you can set up preferences that you get notified when there's remote jobs in those fields. So they could be remote specific Slack groups like Nomad List. They could be industry specific, such as Mind the Product, or there could be Facebook groups like marketing Facebook, remote marketing Facebook jobs. That's, you know what I mean? So there's loads of different, and a simple search and in finding the keywords that are important to you is the way to go about this. So Renata is one lovely example. She's from Russia and she really struggled to find genuine remote jobs. She'd spent hours scrolling through LinkedIn only to find fake remote jobs. And she's a single mum and she really didn't have the time to do this. And she had this goal of moving to Spain. So once we worked together, her eyes were opened up to where to look and how to network to actually open up those doors. And some of them she hadn't thought of before. And now she's living in Spain with her daughter by the coast, and she's got a Mediterranean life. So as you can see, it's not that these fully remote job opportunities don't exist. There's lots of them. You just need to know where to look for them. So I call this the 5 hidden places to find 100% remote jobs faster. That really is a mouthful. Remember, drop your questions in the chat. We're going to collect them. So we're going to try and get to as many as possible. Have you said this to yourself? Drop a message in the chat. Have you said, I don't have the right experience, I don't have a degree, I need to do a course, and that's the reason why I can't get a remote job? What are people saying, Nina?
People are saying yes, but also JC was asking just now, what is the best advice to network with people in an industry that you don't really work in? Like, yeah, what if you don't have the experience? What if you don't have the qualifications, right?
Show interest. So if it's not enough to just say, I am interested in XYZ, show that you're interested. So for example, if you're interested in becoming a copywriter, what copy have you written? What have you proven that you have done that without needing to be paid for it? You could write a friend's website for them. You could do some pro bono work. You could write a blog. Find something, even if you don't have experience in that industry or that field, that proves and doesn't just say that I have experience in these fields. I spoke with one client and he'd never worked in Web3 before, but he'd created all these amazing NFT projects in his own time. And he had 2 babies. He had a full-time job. He found time to show the interest of all these Web3 projects that he'd done to demonstrate, hey, I'm not just saying I have an interest in this. I genuinely have a true interest in it. So most jobs in tech, we have that assumption that most remote jobs are in tech. That's true to a certain degree, but that's not all of them. And the assumption that you're not technical enough, or you need a degree, or you need experience in a particular industry, try and get yourself out of that mindset, because yes, it's harder if you're not a technical person, but it's by no means impossible. So when you keep getting rejection emails without actually getting much feedback, it's hard to know where you're going wrong and what to do and to make it better. And of course, you have to make assumptions like this, that I don't have the right experience, because you don't know what else is the reason. So your confidence has probably taken a massive hit too. And you've had those niggling self-doubts of, I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm not good for this. And I get it. Like, I had those as well. I was like, am I just delusional? Am I not actually good at what I do? So don't worry. In the next few slides, I'm going to show you the 6 steps to get a fully remote job faster, and show you why these beliefs that we have are generally not true. You ready? 6 steps begin now with this broken house. So step 1 is analysis. Just like you wouldn't start building a house without getting in an architect or laying the proper foundations, just doing this, I guess, just like you wouldn't start doing that before knowing what you wanted your house to look like, you shouldn't start working on your CV before you know exactly what kind of remote jobs you're looking for. Some of you are probably thinking, I know what job I want, but do you know the specifics? Do you know what level of remote you want? Which industries to focus on? What salary to ask for? Which time zones, locations? Do you know what your non-negotiables are, more importantly? What are you willing to take, and what are you you really will not do without, like working weekends, for example? You really need to get clarity on these before actually jumping into applying with no strategy. Because if you're not sure, the person reading your application isn't going to be sure if you're good enough either for that role. Then step 2 is to create a strategy. So as I mentioned earlier, the market is too competitive to do things the old way. So once you know what your ideal remote job looks like, it's time to create a strategy to avoid aimlessly scrolling on LinkedIn and constantly updating your CV and making loads of job applications. Less is more. And instead of applying to 20 applications a week and getting lots of rejection emails or no response, it's important to create a bulletproof strategy to target specific companies and jobs that actually match your skills, your experience, and your values. Then you're going to build your confidence by understanding what makes you unique, using tools to keep yourself organized and more productive. So tools like Notion, Google Sheets, You've got Teal, which is a really good tool to use as well, and tracking your job application so that you know when you applied, so you can follow up with the right person. You've got everything all there laid out for you. So that's all part of your strategy. So being more targeted with your applications, being more strategic with how you spend your time will really help massively. And find times in the day when you've got the most energy. For me, when I wake up in the morning, that's when I have the most energy. So I do my deepest work in the morning. And in the evening, when my mind's switching off, for example, that's when I would, if I was a job seeker, I would search for jobs. Save your high energy for the applications and the lower energy for just searching. It's about working harder, not smarter. Here's lovely Nora. We actually met in Bali after she completed the program at that point. She's from Hungary and she'd been working at the same organization for 5 years. She didn't know her worth and her confidence had taken a massive dip, actually. She had so much self-doubt. She didn't know which companies she could apply to, what roles were good enough for her. And week by week, I saw her confidence really grow and she learned how to pinpoint her strengths and the experience that she did have. And she's now working in a different industry and she's moved to Dubai. So step 3, we covered this earlier in the 5 places to find hidden remote jobs. So I won't go too much into depth for this, but just remember, look outside of your own bubble. Look outside of the bubble of LinkedIn and a handful of job boards that you've been using and uncover a whole bunch of other places to find real remote jobs, from specialist job boards in your field with a remote work filter to Slack groups, remote first recruiters, Facebook communities, and use Google Advanced Search to find hidden work from anywhere jobs. Then step 4 is to apply effectively. So question for you, did you know that the average recruiter spends just 6 seconds looking at your CV when you apply to a job? So after spending so much time finding the right job, you don't want to ruin your chance of getting the job with an application that doesn't scream in 6 seconds why you're the right person for that job. So it's more than just creating a great CV. It's about making it crystal clear in your cover letter and your application answers how the company would benefit from hiring you. So don't just talk about I've done X, Y, Z. Talk about the value that you add, and talk about metrics and how you actually succeeded in doing something. You can even do this if you don't have any experience in the job and the industry you're going for. You can just leverage the skills that you do have. And here are some key things to avoid doing. Avoid using Canva to create your CV. A lot of applicant tracking systems can't pick up on the formatting, even though it does look really pretty. Don't use too much personal information on your CV. I've seen anything from passport number to father's name to religion to marital status. That might be relevant in the country that you are from, but remember, you're speaking to a global audience and there's a lot of that personal information that is just not relevant. A lot of you might have downloaded my CV template, so that's fit for a global audience and it limits the amount of information that's personal to avoid any kind of biases. Avoid writing "I'm interested" on a response to a job post. I see this all the time on LinkedIn. People just respond to a job post saying "interested." Don't say you're interested. Show you're interested. Contact them. Show them your CV. Add value. And don't apply to non-remote jobs hoping that once they see your profile, they'll change their mind. It's a little bit like going on a date with someone who said they wanted something casual and then hoping that you're going to get a long-term relationship. There's a chance, but it's a little bit slim. I know one person listening now who can make the correlation. She's a relationship coach, so I'm sure she'll be chuckling to herself now. And don't leave things up to assumptions. So if you are a British citizen, but you are living in Ghana, for example, put in the time zone. No, Ghana's the wrong one because it's the right time zone. In Australia, let's say. Put in the time zones that you're able to work in. Don't leave them up to assumptions for whether they look at your name, for example, and think, oh, they don't have the work right to work in this particular country. So say what citizenship you have, if it's going to be relevant, and also add in the time zone that you can work to. And then some of the must-dos: ensure you personalize every cover letter. You don't necessarily have to redo every single CV for every job, in my opinion. Instead, highly personalize a cover letter. You're better to have one sentence that's highly personalized than a whole essay of a generic cover letter that you send to everyone. Contact the hiring manager or recruiter. If you haven't heard back in your application after 2 or 3 weeks, reach out to them. If you haven't heard anything after an interview, reach out after a week. Make sure you're keeping yourself in the forefront of their mind. Find a way to stand out. This is a really important one. If recruiters are getting hundreds and sometimes thousands of CVs, find a way to grab their attention. I know with one application, they had a really informal tone in when I was applying for recruitment jobs years ago. They had a really informal tone. It was an adventure company. And they said, say something to stand out in the email subject. And I think I put a swear word and I was like something like, F yeah, I want this job. And they reached out to me, and even though I wasn't suitable, they remembered me and they kept my details on file, and they actually reached out a few months later. So stand out for the right reasons and check the tone of the company and the role you're applying to. Dave is from Australia. He's another person. I keep meeting all of these people in real life. I like meeting my rebels. He is from Australia and he'd been living in LA for the past few years. He wanted to stay in LA, but he couldn't find a remote job that would allow him the freedom to go back and forth home. So despite dreading writing a CV, he said he used to absolutely hate it. For the first time, he actually enjoyed the process. And as a result, he made some solid connections, and that's enabled him to actually stay in LA. Actually spoke to him yesterday on the phone. And then step 5, networking. I mentioned before, networking is so important. It's underestimated as well. It's not enough to just apply to a few roles and wait for something to happen. You need to be more proactive. It's so competitive right now. You need to increase your visibility. So networking's got a really bad reputation for stuffy conference halls, beige buffet food, name badges on. But things have changed, luckily, and it can actually be quite fun, and it can open up a whole new world of opportunities. And there's so many ways that you can do that. You can connect with people on LinkedIn. That's just one way. That's the basic way. Be part of online communities on Slack, Facebook, as I mentioned earlier. Attend or even host online or offline events. And they don't necessarily have to be relevant to the job you're going for. I had one of the rebels, she hosted something about adopting stray dogs in Singapore. So she was gaining a community there. It's just about getting out there and speaking to more people. Even just looking up from your phone and chatting with a person in line at the coffee shop. It's not always about what you know, but who you know. And the last step, interview impressively. So interviews are one of actually the things that people overthink the most. And it's really natural to feel nervous, especially for a role that you're really interested in. But once you understand more about yourself and your value, these interviews will no longer feel so daunting. Trust me. Seth used to get so nervous, and he was really insecure when interviewing. He would often freeze or he'd get flustered when he asked questions, and he just didn't know how to respond. Then he discovered what interviewers are actually looking for, and he was able to answer their questions confidently for the first time. It's something we worked on together and practiced some of these questions as well. And he actually got the first job he applied to after only, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks after joining Remote Rebellion. So he got something super quick, and it was an entry-level role that he'd not done before as well. I think he ended up moving in Bali for a little while, and now he's living in Spain. He's from the US. So here's some tips on what to do and what not to do to interview impressively. So a lot of people can default to robotic when someone asks you a question in an interview. Be natural, be yourself, and let a bit of your personality shine. Remember, the person who's interviewing you is a human as well. They also have a life outside of work, hopefully. Find a common ground with them. It's so important to not just research the company, but research the people that you're interviewing with. And if you can find a way to drop in that they have a shared interest, whether you went to the same uni, whether you both are interested in golf, whether you both travel to Spain over the summer, find a way for them to be like, oh, this person's like me, I must hire them. Because it's a sad truth that we hire people who are like ourselves. We attract people who are like ourselves. Use that to your advantage. So you don't need to have a background in tech or a degree to get a remote job. You just need to approach the job search and the applications and the interviews in a much more strategic way with the 6 steps. Frank didn't have a background, doesn't have a tech background. And he was applying blindly and he wasn't really sure which positions or companies to target. So we worked together on figuring out what was important to him and worked on his CV. And he really quickly saw results. He got 2 job offers in 1 week. And I absolutely love this photo of him because it represents him perfectly. He's such a cool dude. Please do drop your questions in the chat. Remember, we'll get to as many as we can. How many have said this or thought this in your head? You know, if you're wanting to leave your current job, you might be feeling a bit scared with the state of the economy and think that it's not a good time to get a new job. And if you're not working right now, you might be thinking that your dream of getting a fully remote job is out of reach and that you should just settle for a hybrid job instead. Totally get it. With all the news talking about layoffs and redundancies and some companies calling people back into the office, especially the latest one with Zoom, which is ridiculous. It's totally understandable why you might be worried and why you might be thinking this is just not possible anymore. I can see why you might be hesitant and why you might feel like your dream of working from anywhere is unrealistic. The headlines are all there. But this is just like one side of the story. Companies can simply not get away from the fact that at least 50% of employees surveyed last year say that remote work is a top priority. So companies going back into the office are struggling to hire. It's as simple as that. Twitter is one example where they backtracked on their return to office policy. Others will follow. And there's a good reason why you're looking for a remote job. And if it's impacting your physical or your mental health and your happiness, you're really not asking for too much. There's something else that I think I did a post a week or 2 ago that remote companies hire twice as fast as those that are on site. These companies know that. I really think there's going to be a big pendulum switch when they're going to realize this soon. And I know a lot of the remote jobs you come across might ask for UK, US, EU citizenship. So if you're not inside that, you might be thinking it's not possible outside of those citizenships. But that is changing. So when I did this presentation about 2 months ago, the number of digital nomad visas was about 54. It's now 66 that offer digital nomad visas. And there are companies like Deal, Oyster, and Remote that allow companies to hire from over 100 countries, even if they don't have an entity in that country. And then on top of that, the list of remote first companies is growing, despite what you're hearing in the media. So remote work's by no means dead, and even in these difficult times. So you see, the fact that so many people in jobs are holding off on applying because they've got the same fear means now is the perfect time. So look past the fear and ego of the dinosaur companies and focus your effort on companies who are truly remote first. Let me ask you, how are you feeling right now? I'm going to take a sip of water while I let that sink in.
I see a lot of comments in the chat, which is comments in the chat. I'm sorry, questions in the chat, which is great. I'm really happy that you just touched on like how to actually work remotely, even though like companies are not on the fence. There's a lot of people asking about that as well. So keep it coming, guys.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of information to take in, but that's what I wanted to do here. I wanted to give you as much insight as possible. So I don't want you to feel overwhelmed, but I do want you to know that your dream of getting a fully remote job is realistic. And with everything that you've learned, let me ask you, do you feel that getting a remote job is now possible? Tell us in the chat.
People are saying I'm feeling great. People are saying I'm feeling inspired, hopeful.
Good.
Awesome.
Good. I'm glad. And now that you know that it is possible to get a fully remote job, can you visualize your dream lifestyle? What does that look like to you? Remember, that doesn't need to mean that you move to Bali and travel around the world. Your dream lifestyle could simply be spending more time with your family, getting to swim in the ocean, getting to hang out with your dog at home instead of coming to the office every day and dealing with a guy who microwaves fish in the staff kitchen. Yes, we've all been there. So good news for you, because I am on a mission. I am a bit greedy, and the hundreds of people that I've helped to get a remote job already aren't enough for me. I want to help more people. I want to help more people have freedom. The freedom of choice for me is the most important thing, and I'm sure it's the most important thing for you as well. Here is a snapshot of some of the people that have designed their dream lives from all kinds of backgrounds. I wanted to highlight this because a lot of people say, oh, do you not help people from this country? Or I have this job and I'm not sure if you can help me. And as you can see, there's all different nationalities and people from a different place to where they're living and the type of role that they're doing. So across all walks of life. And if they can do it, so can you. So these guys all completed the 6 steps I'm talking about. We've gone through these and banging on about how competitive the remote job market is. It's no longer enough to just have a good CV and apply. So let me show you why the 6 steps is so important. So the first one, the reason most people don't get responses to applications is because they jump straight into applying without getting clarity on what their ideal remote job looks like. And that, like I said, it's like building a house without laying the foundations or getting an architect in. It's going to be a big waste of your time and energy. Then for the strategy, almost everyone falls into a trap of wasting hours scrolling on LinkedIn without that real strategy, and they end up getting nothing achieved, and it leads to demotivation, and the cycle continues. Then finding them. How are you supposed to apply to jobs if you don't know the right places to find them jobs? So spending lots of time filtering out fake jobs is frustrating. And again, it leads to feeling discouraged and you don't think that they actually exist in your field. I feel you. And I know you're probably thinking, so where are they? It's really frustrating. And job seekers generally on the applying side, they generally fail because they either scattergun approach and send out tons of applications and they spray and pray and they don't personalize them. Or they put in quite a lot of time and energy into applications without knowing what the employers are looking for and get really discouraged when they don't hear anything back there. Networking is so much more than connecting on LinkedIn, but most people don't know how to network effectively and without the cringe factor as well, which a lot of us get when we're at these events. In fact, they end up saying the wrong thing and making bad first impressions. And then when it comes to interviewing, they get to the interview and they waste all of their efforts by answering questions the wrong way or not articulating themselves well enough and their value and not being prepared with the right kind of questions as well. So I don't want to go in and say this is everything that you're doing wrong, but you're not alone. If you've been doing some of these things, it's quite normal because the whole market has changed. So I don't want you to feel like Bill. So I was talking to Nina about this is Bill, don't be like Bill thing. How many of you else have heard that have seen the meme that this is Bill? I want to know that it wasn't just me that had this.
Please don't embarrass me, guys.
I'm not hearing anything here, so but anyway, maybe it was just me. Maybe I made it up. Instead of being like Bill, you can follow the 6 steps so you can be a rebel instead and live the life that you design. And these steps are all part of, there should be an image there. Where's the image gone? Oh, there it is. So these steps are all part of the Remote Job Academy. And I'm really excited to give you a behind the scenes peek. But before I tell you what the Remote Job Academy is, let me tell you what it is not. Okay. So the Remote Job Academy is not just a list of remote companies and job boards. Or is it just a basic online course that you can complete in a few hours? It's not a quick CV or resume makeover. Sorry, but that's not just going to be a quick fix. It's not just basic tips that you can Google yourself or ask ChatGPT. The Remote Job Academy isn't some quick fix to get you any kind of job in 1 week. It's a holistic approach to getting a well-paid remote job and one that aligns with your values as well. So I didn't want to just create a course with some pre-recorded videos and just leave you hanging, because searching for a remote job in 2023 is really tough and it can really eat away at your self-worth and your confidence. So I know that you need more than just a list of resources and information and just left to roll. You need guidance, you need support, you need advice from someone who's been in the hiring seat for remote companies and knows what they look for. And I'd really love to take a few minutes to show you what's inside the Remote Job Academy. Is that all right with you? Question?
Getting a lot of yeses, so let's go.
Okay. So it's a step-by-step proven process to figure out what it is that you want to do and what you can do remotely and what's important to you, most importantly. So whether that's the industry, the salary, the flexible hours, and then uncover a whole bunch of places to find real remote jobs. Then you'll learn how to apply to remote jobs, so that including your CV, your cover letter, your LinkedIn profile, so that you stand out and you demonstrate your value well and avoid getting those countless rejection emails or getting ghosted. Then you'll hone your networking skills and expand and increase your visibility so that you find more opportunities and increase your chances of getting the jobs that you apply to. There's tips and tricks on how to stand out and get recruiters contacting you on LinkedIn with job offers, and then sharpen your interview skills with remote first companies so that you can impress in interviews and land a remote job that's just right for you. Victoria is one lovely example. When we met, she'd quit her job as an account manager in a digital agency in New York. She was burnt out, essentially. She'd been out of work for about 3 months. She'd sent multiple applications and she'd been interviewing with no success. She hated writing cover letters and she really needed help to improve her CV and her LinkedIn profile. And in reality, she wasn't even sure what kind of jobs to apply to. She was a little bit lost. So after working together, she was contacted by multiple recruiters and hiring managers, and she ended up landing not one, not two, but 3 freelance gigs. And she's since moved to Valencia, and she now spends her mornings before work meditating, going for walks, enjoying breakfast with friends. I remember talking to her in the first call, and she dreamt about just sitting having a coffee on her balcony. It was just really simple, but that's the lifestyle she wanted. And she's now part of a community as well of other remote workers. She's got this sense of community that something she didn't have in New York. This is a snapshot of other rebels that I've met in person. As I said, I love doing this. When I left the corporate world, I really wanted to help others to get the same freedom that I had. So I started helping friends with their CVs. I sent them remote jobs. I showed them how to apply, gave them interview tips, and I got really good feedback. So when people started landing those jobs, that's when I realized I could help more people. So in Walks in Remote Rebellion, I set up Remote Rebellion and I spent over 100 hours supporting people on calls, sending resources, reviewing their CVs, sharing remote companies. And I was absolutely blown away by just how many people needed help with these things. I actually hired a coach myself. Nina, I can hear you in there. You in?
I'm in.
All good? I hired a coach myself and I actually started learning more about the remote workspace. I connected with remote work experts, partnered with remote first companies, and I spent hours doing courses and learning to learn as much as possible in this space. Then strangers began contacting me and they asked for advice. And I wanted to have a bigger impact that meant I could help more people, but I still had time to surf and sip a coconut on the beach. I wanted a life as well. I just didn't want it all to be work. So I gave myself 5 months to create the Remote Job Academy program. It actually took me 7. It took me a lot longer than I was expecting because once I got started, I realized how much insights there were to add or I wanted to add. And I wanted to make sure that it was the best it could be and that it was the most accessible for everyone looking for a remote job. I've since had over 400 hours of coaching calls approximately with people from 25 different countries around the world. And I've helped hundreds of people to land a remote job. And these are some of the lovely rebels that I've met in real life. I think there's way more, but this looks a bit visual on the slides. So I didn't stop there. Once I created the Remote Job Academy, I'm constantly updating the program now. So I'm adding more information, new tools to make things easier, incorporating things like AI, and I'm adding to it every week. So there's new remote first companies and jobs that are added to that every week. Then I'm working on expanding my network. So I'm building partnerships with remote first companies. I'm meeting with experts in the field. I'm attending and speaking at events. It's all super important. I've been at remote work conferences in 4 different countries already this year, and I use this opportunity to actually pimp out my rebels. A few of you might have heard me. I know, Nina, you see me do this at Running Remote. I was like, oh, you need a HR director. You need to speak to Alison. And I'm always listening out for people who are hiring, and then, for want of a better phrase, pimping out my rebels. I'm a proud mama because the bigger my network is, the wider the reach that my rebels have. And that means a higher chance of getting a remote job. So again, that not what you know, who you know.
Absolutely.
Alvin, the lovely Alvin, he'd actually sold most of his things and he'd moved from Canada to Bali when we chatted. He was living on his savings and he'd hoped he'd find a remote job. But after months of searching, applying and getting nowhere, he reached out to me. And the job he got was, like Maxine, was one that we sent to him. And despite not being technically qualified for it, it was a little bit out of his reach. We worked on how he'd sell himself. And after 2 interviews, he got the job offer. And he got to stay in Bali where he loved. And I think he's now in Albania, I believe. So he's been traveling around a little bit. Albania is the new Bali, I hear. So let me take you a sneak peek inside the Remote Job Academy. So the course part is broken down into 10 modules. That includes over 6 hours of video tutorials, and that's divided into bite-sized videos. So it's not too overwhelming. You can do these in between your day job. Then you've got the action guides for each module with some handy templates that you can use, from CV to cover letter to emails, to actually send to companies you want to work for. You'll also get a curated list of over 900 remote first companies, and over half of these are companies that will allow you to work from anywhere. And like I shared before, there's a bunch of specialist job boards. Like, these resources just keep getting added to. You'll have there are 2 calls with me every week to factor in all of the time zones. So there'll be an AM and a PM Central European. So making sure that no matter if you're Canada to New Zealand and everyone in between, there's going to be a time that you can make. So they're 1 hour long, and you can join as many as you like for 12 weeks. You'll get to meet up to 9 others on the call, so there'll be plenty of time to ask questions. And they're from all over the world. And the people who are going through the same thing that you are, they're on the same journey, and they want the same freedom as you. And they're there to support you as well. Then there's a bonus of over 50 tools, books, expert recommendations from anything from accommodation to tax to legal, and actually tools to keep you more productive. So it'll keep you structured, keep you organized, so it's not also overwhelming. And additional bonus, Nina, how lovely is this photo? The connection that you make with like-minded people will stay forever too. And this is where Nina and I met for the first time in Lisbon after 6 months chatting online. She actually asked me, and this is the thing about don't ask, don't get. She asked me to have a look at her CV after I was interviewed on her podcast. And I saw her and I was like, I need you to come and work with me. So we now work together. I thought you were going to add something in with it, with something there, Nina. Add your bit about it.
No, that's okay. I'm just really happy, just showing my smile. How happy I am.
Nice. So if you're looking for freelance work, the chances are that you'll be looking for a remote job again sometime soon. So the best thing about the Remote Job Academy is you get lifetime access to the course. So anytime you need to refresh your memory on some of the bits, you can always come back to the Academy, and you've got all of those resources in that same place. And it's constantly being updated too. Plus, there's some extra bonuses because, as I mentioned earlier, I didn't just want to create a pre-recorded course and just send you off on your own. We will personally send you remote jobs that are handpicked for you every week for 12 weeks. And as well as the weekly calls, you're going to get exclusive access to the online community. And that's the online community of other rebels. There's about 50 active users, because some people kind of drop out of the program once they've got the job. So you can get real-time feedback with those people, get advice, get support, and support each other on the journey through the highs and the lows. And really, you're not doing it on your own anymore. Then I'm part of a few private recruitment networks. So there's about, I think I checked this the other day, there's actually 13,000. So 13,000 in total of recruiters in that network. And so I will personally send and share your CV with them as well. So get that in front of the right people. These are some of the things that the Academy will do for you. It will save you hours of time. It will take out the uncertainty and the frustrations that you're probably feeling right now in your search, give you the support and the guidance and the expert advice from me, and you're getting that real-time feedback. It will save you from feeling discouraged and that this is not possible, and really keep you motivated and driven throughout this, because having that accountability of those weekly calls is a massive driver for a lot of people. We all tend to procrastinate. That happens. But you can't, when you've got to commit to something. I know when I had a coach, I was like, I've not done my homework. I better do this before our next call. So it really helps keep that commitment up. So Maxime was a project manager, and he was working in France. He wanted to transition into the mental health space and work remotely so that he could spend time with his partner in Colombia. And he was searching, he was applying for months without so much as an interview. And when he joined the Remote Job Academy this year, we sent him a job that he really liked. He prepared his CV, we optimized it, he applied, got an interview, and he got a job offer. And now he's able to work from wherever, and him and his partner can travel, spend some time with their family in Colombia, spend some time with his family in France, and he doesn't have to worry about taking his precious annual leave. So if Maxim can do it, so can you. So you already know what's inside, but let me tell you the actual value of all of this. I can't put a monetary value on the hours that I've invested and the time putting into putting all this together, but look at some of these things, and that's almost €8,000 in value. Of course, I'm not going to be charging you that today, don't worry, but I just wanted to let you know that the value of all of these things, well, some of them priceless, some of them I can't put a number on. The value of what's in the Remote Job Academy tots up to almost €8,000. So even though the total value of everything included is almost €8,000, what we usually charge is around 1,800 to enroll in the Remote Job Academy. So if you're sick and tired of searching for a remote job and you're not getting anywhere, you join our Rebels today. But the usual charge is 1,800, but because you're so special and you're committed enough to be here today, I'm going to let you enroll for a special price. I hope people got the Schitt's Creek reference because it's one of my favorite shows. So something that's worth over almost €8,000, you only pay around 1,600. And I want to make this as accessible as possible for everyone. So for the next 48 hours, instead of paying in full, which you would do normally, you just pay €816 plus VAT, and the next payment isn't actually due for another 4 weeks. So by that time, I'm confident you're going to have a few job interviews lined up. So if you want to get all of this, go to academy.remoterebellion.com/join. I believe Nina's going to be adding the link into the chat. I can't see that. So you can click on that link and get that special offer. It's a limited time of 48 hours for that offer. Just want to check, Nina, it's all good in the chat.
Yeah, it's all good in the chat. Like, it's right here.
Nice.
I see so many people also commenting. This is awesome. So yeah, so go to academy.remoterebellion.com/chat.
Nice.
Woohoo!
Lovely.
Let's go.
So I also want to hear in the chat, I think I can probably switch screens when no, I can't switch screens. It's going to mess it all up. But I'll hear from Nina what people are saying. Drop a fire emoji or some kind of emoji in the chat. If you want to take full ownership of your life, if you want to get a well-paid job that you actually enjoy and that you feel you're making an impact, and if you're 100% committed to getting a remote job. What emojis are we seeing?
Yeah, I'm seeing some fires coming up. A lot of people are like, whoa, this is awesome. I'm going to show some
Nice.
fires here so people can see it on the screen.
Nice. So I'm sure you've got a few questions already, and this is totally normal. And I know you've probably been asking them in the chat. So to ensure I focus on your specific questions later in the Q&A, I'm going to cover 2 common questions I often get. The first one is, I've been searching for months now with no results. What makes you think you can help me? Totally fair. I get it. You might feel like you tried everything and nothing's working. The fact that you're here now tells me you're not ready to give up yet, which is awesome. And that you truly believe landing a remote job is possible. Good, because it is. So doing it alone can be soul destroying. What you'll get from me isn't just a bunch of tips and tricks. You'll have an army backing you. So, and all the way to actually reach that goal. So you've got an arsenal of insight, exposure to the side of recruitment you didn't know, and all the tips and tricks. You'll get a bunch of resources to go through that you have for lifetime access. You'll get the support from myself and from the community of Rebels, the guidance, the advice, the coaching, the introductions to recruiters. That's all the things that you maybe have not had until now. The second question is, can you guarantee that I'll get a remote job? The really simple answer to this is no. For the same reason a personal trainer can't guarantee that you'll get a 6-pack or get the results in the gym. I don't make claims of a guaranteed job because there's so many things out of my control. But what I can guarantee is that myself and the team will give you everything that you need to get a remote job. And if you show up, put in the work with your heart and your soul and your mind, I promise you will see results. And within just a few weeks, you'll get recruiters reaching out to you with job opportunities, and you'll be on your way to getting a remote job. So think of me as your remote job personal trainer / nutritionist. We're in this together, and you're not on your own anymore. So people are tuning in from all different places today, and I see that I'm getting some questions. Nina's talking about the questions in here. I just want to show you the value again. This isn't just some pre-recorded course. This is the value, but of course, I'm not going to be charging you that. Do not worry. I want you to know, though, we got your back. And instead of charging you this amount, you're getting over 8,000 euros worth of value for just over 1,600. And as I mentioned before, if you sign up in the next 48 hours, you only have to pay the 816 plus VAT, and you don't need to pay the rest for another 4 weeks. So if you want all of that, go into the chat. Nina's put the, I hope she has put the link to the link in there. Have you got the .join link, Nina?
Yeah, the link is here in the chat, guys. So it's really awesome. I see also people I'm gonna join. Amazing, amazing.
And Jack's another really good example. So Jack had never worked remotely before, and he didn't know what he could do without, he didn't know that he could travel without having to quit his job. So previously he'd had to just save for a little bit, then go and travel, quit his job and start all over again. And now he can do both. So if you're wondering if this is for you because you don't have enough experience or you've never worked remotely before, I can tell you it's less about what you've done in the past and all about where you want to be. So every one of you's got something unique to offer. So if you're committed to learning new ways of approaching your remote job search and you're open to that and you're willing to put in the work to get there, then with the support of me, with support of the Remote Rebellion community, you've got everything you need to succeed. And then the world is your oyster. Here's a snapshot of the community vibes in the Rebel community. So I get a really warm, fuzzy feeling when I see other Rebels supporting each other. So someone says, I've got an interview. People are like, they're cheerleaders. They're like, oh, well done. Good luck for the interview. We hope it went well. So we hear each other for the highs and the lows. And one Rebel actually put it in a really good way. Like, it's good for motivation when you see others succeed. So the whole rising tides lift all boats was a really nice way to put this. There's 2 more common questions I get asked before we jump into the Q&A at the end. How long does it take to find a remote job? It's a little bit like how long's a piece of string. Unfortunately, there's not a simple answer. How long it takes really depends on so many factors. So some things like the market, your experience, the economy, other things you can actually have more control of. So that's your mindset, your role and salary expectations, the work that you put in, the industries that you're focusing on, and your ability to take advice and guidance on board. So that's why it's really hard to give a specific answer. Some clients got a remote job in 2 to 3 weeks, and others took 6 months because they were already in a job and they wanted to really accept only their dream and ideal remote job. Then the second question, what is the success rate? We all want numbers, right? We're all data driven. And it's a really hard question to answer because, again, everyone's situation is different. So if I tell you the average time it takes to get a remote job, it won't actually mean anything. I can say that 81% of remote rebels had their first interview in just 6 weeks of starting the academy. And most of them had been applying for months without hearing anything back. And I'm also proud to say that 100% of those who completed the program were either satisfied or extremely satisfied. I hope those answer some of your questions. So if you want to go from the confused guy on the left, someone who's demotivated, you've done endless searching, you're frustrated, getting no feedback, you're losing confidence, you're a little bit unsure on where you're going. If you want to go from that to the fresh-faced guy on the right, by signing up to the Remote Job Academy, you're going to save hours of this scrolling. You're going to save hours of the frustration, and then you're going to save hours of the annoyance when you realize that these jobs aren't actually remote. And avoid making those bad first impressions to companies you're really eager to work with. So instead, you'll get the ongoing support, you'll have the weekly calls, you'll have the supportive community, and you'll have them cheering you on throughout it and get that expert advice from me, a recruiter. And also there's the bonus of the fully remote jobs that we're sending you. So you takes out some of that searching for you, so you don't have to do as much of that. So if you want to get a remote job faster and have more freedom, here is the link to sign up. And it's also in the chat, so you can get that special offer. Once you've signed up, here's what's going to happen. You get an email from the lovely Lucia, who's going to be working hard to ensure that you're going to get access within 12 hours so you can get started right away. And then, where are we now? Why is this not working? There we go. Then you'll get access to the Remote Job Academy course. You'll get an intro video from me telling you how to use the program. So everything's done. So it's really simple for you to follow. No matter what tools you've used in the past, it's really easy to follow. Then you can start working through the videos and the action guides and do them step by step. What I advise people to do is whatever you're doing at the moment, scrap that, start the program from the beginning and go in with a whole new different mindset. Then you get to meet the rebels in the community, start introducing yourself, see what common ground you have with some people. and then join your first call. So some of these people were in a job already. They didn't want their face shown. You get to meet some of those people from all over the world on those calls. Let me ask you if you can imagine this. Can you imagine sending less applications, getting more responses, getting interviews for fully remote jobs, actually getting actionable feedback from your interviews, getting recruiters contacting you with remote job offers, and actually landing your dream remote job? I want to ask one last question. What is freedom and flexibility worth to you? For me, it was invaluable, and I know for Joel, it was certainly important for him as well. So he's a product manager. He's from Mauritius, and he'd worked in London for so many years because that's where the work was. And then when the pandemic allowed him to work from home in Mauritius, he realized he didn't want to return back to London, and who can blame him, right? But then the company was pressuring him to return, and he had a real difficulty finding an employer who would hire him due to his nationality. But then after switching his strategy and he followed the steps in the Remote Job Academy, he received 2 offers that he had to choose from, and he accepted one, and that's fully remote. So he now spends his time sailing and diving in Mauritius, and certainly not something he could do in London. So I'm going to ask again what the amount of freedom and flexibility is worth to you. Okay, I think we're ready to dive into your questions and
Let's
open up
do
the
it. Let's
Q&A.
do it. I know that we're a little bit over time, guys.
Oh, sorry about that, guys.
Thanks so much. So we have a bunch of questions. I'm here and we're gonna go through it. So just to make sure that people understand, it's like the Remote Rebellion community is a private community. Just to make sure that people get that. All right. So first question is there were actually a lot of questions about how to deal with like visas. If you're, for example, in the UK, can you work in the US? If people are worried about that, Shell, what do you recommend on like how to deal with that worry?
Sorry, say that again. To the worry with the US visas, did you say?
Yeah, for example, if you are from a certain country and you want to work in another country remotely, or the company is based in another country, like it's a worry. We talked about it today in the masterclass, but like, what is the mindset advice that you can give on to that?
So to focus your efforts on work from anywhere organizations, if you don't have one of the better, in air quotes, passports, because it's a bit more difficult to get certain roles, focus on companies that allow work from anywhere and who use these companies such as Deal, such as Remote, to be able to hire you from no matter what country. Rather than searching for jobs, I think you're much better off searching for work from anywhere companies.
Okay, cool. Thanks so much. All right, then I got another question here. Do remote employees get paid less than their in-office peers?
I get asked this so many times, and it's a really hard question to answer because there's so many variables. Again, I feel like I say this to everything. I'm not just fobbing you off. Blanket rule, no. If we had to compare the type of job that you do remotely to the type of job that you do in office, it makes no difference whether it's remote or not. But because there's a lot of entry level remote roles like customer support or data entry, it kind of brings the average down. So when people are searching for these things, and because certain organizations can pay certain roles less because they've got a access to a pool of talent that is cheaper than their home country, yes, it can sometimes bring it down. So there's so many different variables, unfortunately, but as a blanket rule, it's not a hard and fast yes, you get paid less.
Okay, cool. Thanks so much. All right, we have here a question from Stephanie. Is it a realistic goal to want to find a fully remote job as a recent graduate?
Yeah, I can give Ellie as an example, actually. She hadn't even graduated yet. And she was one of the people I'm like, oh, she's going to be tough. She's not graduated yet. She's hardly got any experience. But she was just a gun in being like a dog with a bone in being committed to I am doing this no matter what. And now she's got I think it's a research role actually that she's starting soon, and she's only just finished her degree like a month or so ago, and she got that offer before she even finished. So like I mentioned before, whether you've got 20-30 years, I just helped a guy who was 68. So from Ellie at 21 to Al 68, it's your commitment and your dedication to it. That's the main thing.
Love that. Actually, so happy that you touched on that also, because we did get a few questions like, I'm 45. Can I still look for a remote job? There were people in their 50s. So I think that answers that question. I'm awesome. So there's also a question here about like time zones. So do companies require you to work in their time zone even though you're like in the other end of the world?
Some do. The positive thing is that a lot of companies now are going asynchronous. So asynchronous means that you can communicate, for those who don't know, you can communicate on things like Notion or Slack and actually do your work without having to have this real FaceTime or call time. So it's a different way of communicating. So what a lot of companies will do now that are truly remote first, they might have a crossover of maybe 4 hours in the day where you're on the same time zone. Some of them won't even have anything and maybe only have one meeting a week, which is fantastic. That's what I do at Remote Rebellion. Well, I know you and I speak a bit longer than that, Nina, but generally speaking, there's one meeting a week that people have to attend. So a lot
Yeah.
of companies are going that way now because they're realizing the benefit of it. So generally speaking, these companies who are on board with fully remote, a lot of them don't actually ask you to work 9 to 5 their time zone.
Cool, cool. All right. So we have another question here from JC. I'm going a little bit quick because we have a lot of questions.
Sure.
So, what is the best advice to network with people in an industry that you don't really work in or haven't worked in yet?
It would depend on the industry to a certain degree and what you're looking to gain. So, what I would do is when you're reaching out, think about the value that you can add and think about massaging an ego. Everyone likes a compliment. So, if you're going to go in and reach out to someone cold, as we call it, reach out and comment something on their profile. Say, "Oh, great photo, great dog." Like, make sure it's authentic, but say something that's going to be like, oh, this person actually bothered to read my profile, or point out something that you've got in common, or think about how you can add
Mhm.
value to them. Don't just think about take. Go in with, I'm going to this event. I'm not just going to get a job out of it. I'm going to go in and I'm going to learn, and I'm going to meet some great people. And I know that's really hard when you're desperately looking for that job, but if you go in with that attitude, loads more will come back at you.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, so another question here is about being overqualified. So, why do qualified applicants still get disqualified by hiring teams these days?
Because there's literally so much competition. So if you've got I'm just trying to think of an example. If you've got like two glasses of water and one is the most filtered water you have ever drank from and another one is like tap water, and you've got a selection, you're going to drink the one that's the most filtered. Whereas if you've only got one option of the tap water, then you're going to go for that. And I know I've used a really bad analogy here, but essentially when you've got more options to choose from, that's why it's so much harder. And that's why it's really important to show your value on paper before even getting into that interview.
All right, gotcha. Awesome. Okay, so there were a few questions about the CV guide and the CV template. So the CV template is actually part of the Remote Job Academy among a lot of other resources, including also a cover letter. I have here a question about a cover letter, which is, do recruiters really read cover letters when they're overwhelmed with 200 plus
Hmm.
submissions? Well, you have been a recruiter for 9 years. What is the
Yes.
answer?
I personally would scan read them. I did a survey actually on this, and 60% don't read them. But for that 40%, it's worth writing them. I actually hired someone purely based on their cover letter. I wasn't going to hire them based on their CV, but they won me over with their cover letter. So for that, and she's still working remotely for that company. So I would say write one. Don't overthink it. Highly personalize it, and one sentence is better than writing a whole copy pasted standard one.
Okay, cool. All right. So that's really good. I'm just gonna check. There was also a question. I got it right here. There's so many questions.
Mhm.
But there was a question really about like standing out. Like, should you like what are other things than having like a really great resume and a cover letter, networking, like how you can really stand out?
There's a few ways. That's where the actual networking and referrals comes in, because once you've made an impression with someone, you've gone for a coffee, they've seen your face, or you've chatted to them on a phone for a little bit, that's going to make you stand out in their mind. But another way is actually to you could do a little Loom introduction to yourself. You could actually go, so Loom is a really good tool that you can use. You can just do a recording on your phone, send a 30-second 1 minute introduction, and actually do an application that way. That's going to really stand out to them.
Okay, cool. All right. So, we are a little bit over time, so I guess we're gonna wrap it up today. There's still like over 100 people watching, so
Oh,
that's
yeah.
amazing. Thanks so much for staying here. So the link is here in the chat. So yeah, I guess we hope to see everyone inside. Michelle, is there like a final thing that you want to say, that you want to share?
One thing I will say is that a lot of people, like, they tell themselves that it isn't possible. They tell themselves that I've been trying for so long, so I can't do it. And it's so I totally get it. Like, when you've been doing it for so long, you're like, what else can I possibly do? I've tried it all. You've not tried my way. That's all I'm going to say. And if you want to drop any questions, if there's still questions that we didn't manage to cover, you send us an email and we can get to as many of those as possible.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, thanks so much everyone for joining today.
Thank
Michelle, thanks
you.
so much for your awesome knowledge about how to land a remote job faster. This was epic.
Thanks. Speak to you all soon. Thanks for joining.